Now we'll move into simplifying complex numbers through multiplication. Now, it's going to be important for us to remember this concept from a previous video that I squared can equal to a negative 1. So you're going to see that when we multiply I times I, we're going to get I squared. And whenever you get an I squared in any one of these simplification problems, you'll need to replace it with a negative 1 and continue to simplify it. So if you look at the example 3, you can look at all the different methods here. You can see here from a couple things that when we distribute the I just like any other variable, except the only difference is that when we get this squared term, we have to change it to a negative 1. So that really is the only difference. And then of course we need to write this in standard form when we finish with it. On B and C, you can see that we're using FOIL just like we would with any other multiplication of variables. Now you can see in part C that something different happens than in part B. If you notice here, we have the same terms with different signs, and if you remember, that's called a conjugate. So you need to remember conjugates, and so since these are complex numbers, we actually call them complex conjugates. And if you'll pay attention to the fact that whenever we're dealing with complex conjugates, our final answer actually comes out without any I term whatsoever. It comes out just as a real number. So something to keep in mind for the next video. Now, if we look down at sample problem number 3, we've given you 3 similar examples to work. Keep in mind when you finish working each of these problems or simplifying them that you need to put the complex number in standard form. So go ahead and take a second to do that now. Alright, so let's take a look at what you did. We're going to distribute the negative I, which is going to give us negative 3I minus I squared. Now we need to replace the I squared with a negative 1. Now keep in mind, we're only replacing the I squared. That negative in front of it has got to stay there. So we replace that with negative 1, and then we continue working or simplifying this problem. So that's negative 3I plus 1, and now we have to write this in standard form for complex numbers. So the real part has to go first, imaginary part second. Okay, now we'll work on the binomials. So we're going to multiply or distribute twice or FOIL. So 2 times negative 6, so we're going to end up with negative 12 minus 4I, and then we're going to end up with negative 18I and negative 6I squared. We want to combine like terms in the middle, so we're going to get negative 12 and negative 22I, and then we want to replace the I squared with that negative 1 value, and we'll continue to simplify. And we're writing our final answer in standard form. Alright, last problem. You can see here we have conjugates, same terms with the different signs. You will want to keep in mind here that this is going to have a canceling out effect of the middle term, but it also eliminates our I value as well. So as we FOIL these, let's see how that plays out. So that's 1, and then we have negative 2I, positive 2I, and negative 4I squared. So the first thing we see here is that the middle terms actually end up canceling each other out. So those cancel, leaving us 1 minus 4 times I squared, which is replaced with the negative 1. This leaves us 1 plus 4, which leaves us with a 5. So very important that you understand complex conjugates. We're going to use that in the next video.